next day, that pedal that you could have only got from us was on Amazon, fulfilled by Amazon. Wow. They basically stole the product.
Hello team, welcome to the Entrepreneur's Conversation. All things fulfillment. Will we be fulfilled? We'll soon find out. We're speaking to Paul Jefford, and he is in that space, and he's going to tell us as an entrepreneur how it all works and how we can hook in and get some tricks and flicks to what we do with Despatch. Paul, thank you. Thank you very much
Pleasure.
for coming over.
Thanks for having me.
What did you think? Did we give you a little bit of a blast of the arrival, the sense of arrival when you get to Badder Park?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Very.
We worked hard. We planted all those trees to make that happen.
I was going to say to you, the two words that you don't really get as an entrepreneur is well done.
Yes.
You know, shake hands. When you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner.
No one really says that, do they?
You're at the top of the tree. You've got, when you're employed, someone goes, well done, mate. You've done a good work. No one ever says that to you. It's always like negative stuff like, what you're doing or whatever.
So how does fulfillment work? You've got this brand and it's Bros, say it to me?
Despatch Bros.
Despatch Bros.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was built on the back of our e-commerce company, which is Strings Direct, which my dad started. I got involved in when I was younger. And then my brother come on board. And basically we grew that over the years. And really it wasn't, I would say, our passion. I can play guitar, I wouldn't call myself a guitarist. And we got to a bit of a ceiling level and we were kind of scratching around for what we were going to do. I mean, the guitar industry is quite a small industry in the grand scheme of things. Margins were tight, you're being controlled by suppliers, and it's a very brand-based industry. The best thing about Strings Direct was its fulfillment. So we decided to sort of branch out, created Despatch Bros, and started that. And it's a bit like Amazon FBA, but we are Amazon. Strings Direct was looking into outsourcing its fulfillment about 10 years ago, and this is where Despatch Bros was born. As we sort of went to about 4 or 5 companies, and it was all very confusing. Price points, so you're going to pay this for 1 item in the packaging, you're going to pay this for 2 items, pay for storage, pay for insurance, pay for all this sort of stuff. And I said to Lee, my brother, I was like, I don't actually know how much we're going to be paying these people. It wasn't transparent. And also these places were massive. Yeah. We built this business that's our baby. It's like giving your child to someone else.
And at that stage, that early stage then, when you were looking at jumping to using a third party that you then didn't do, where was all the stuff?
In our warehouse.
And you did own a warehouse at that stage?
We owned the warehouse, yeah. Okay. My dad bought the warehouse originally, and we were going to outsource the fulfillment and basically rent the warehouses out.
Right, okay, yeah.
And that just didn't happen in the end for, one reason or another. Just didn't feel right.
And who was like your first person that you talked into that we can handle your stuff? How did that work?
That was, it was actually a friend of mine, a guy called Pete, who runs a company called Happy Stride, and he does funky running shorts. Okay. And his issue was he was looking to grow, but he was in his house. I went around his house and he had a 4-bedroom house and 3 bedrooms were just full of stuff.
Like a true entrepreneur.
Like a true entrepreneur, yeah. And he is definitely a true entrepreneur. And he was just he was looking at building a outhouse in his garden that was going to cost a lot of money and probably wouldn't have got him very far because he would have grown 50% and then had to do something else. And he was looking at renting places. And that wasn't really too cost effective anyway. So I had a word with him, and this was sort of him coming on board was the birth of Despatch Bros.
And how long ago? Where are we now?
So 2.5 years ago, that was probably.
Yeah.
And he come on board, and he was sort of like our guinea pig. And we didn't really charge him for the first 6 months just because I wanted to make sure that we could actually
work out the systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't want to be taking his money and we were messing it up left, right, and centre. But it worked really well. And we've just gone from there, really. And I'm really happy with the business because I'm really confident in it. I feel like we can go and sell our services. I'm not, pulling the wool over anyone's eyes.
Team members for that particular business, what do you run?
Well, it's kind of pure profit, to be honest with you, because all of the team members, it's so streamlined, are Strings Direct employees. So Strings Direct, it's a bit unfair really to say that Despatch Bros is pure profit because all of the overheads are covered by Strings Direct.
Right, okay.
We own the buildings,
Yeah.
all the rates, the employees, everything like that, all covered by Strings Direct. So, it depends on your perspective, I suppose. But I guess that's what happens when you fold a business into an existing business.
You're sweating that asset.
Absolutely,
through. Yeah. And then how many team members have you got running that?
About 10.
About 10. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're packing and getting orders in and
a lot of them, probably about 6 packers.
Yeah.
And it's so paint by numbers, the packing system.
How many guitar strings do you sell a day?
It's
a niche thing.
We were first to market.
Right.
I remember having a conversation with my dad. So I was playing golf and I started to work for my dad for basically pocket money. And golf was sort of like my education into the world. I went to school. I wasn't a great student, didn't really pay too much attention. And then I found golf and I absolutely loved it. And I was going to the golf club 12 hours a day during the summer holidays. And you're interacting with guys that play golf that are entrepreneurs in their own right, successful people, judges, entrepreneurs, guys that are, on the grapevine, everyone's saying this guy's worth 20 million or whatever. And you're not only interacting with them, you're caddying for them.
Yeah.
And you've got
you're rubbing up against
absolutely.
That
you're networking without even knowing it.
But when you say you're rubbing up, then in my young childhood, I was brought up in a pub.
Yeah.
And that was a very similar thing, Paul, that you'd listen to all these stories and they'd be telling you about this million deal and that deal. And it opened your eyes to a completely different world that you weren't hearing about that at school.
Absolutely. And I think back to that time when I was 14, 15 doing that and what maybe other kids were doing. They'd be down the park smoking probably, being realistic.
Over the park with a bottle of cider.
The bottle of White Lightning,
That's great.
It's a good drop that,
The golf.
Yeah.
Golf that's a hard game, isn't it?
Yeah. I gravitated towards it because I was quite underconfident when I was younger.
Right.
And I didn't like team sports. And I didn't really like relying on other people. So I was sort of gravitated towards golf because it wasn't with golf, you're sort of competing against yourself.
Yeah.
You can go and play on your own. You can practice on your own. With team sports, you sort of have to have people around you.
Yeah. You're in a cog of a thing, aren't you?
Of course, yeah. And it just, I got really good at it. And I think that fell to the wayside. Like I say, I just don't think I had that at that time, that self-belief that I could do it.
Right.
I think in anything like that, in business, in sport, to believe in yourself, you have to be a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
Delusional almost.
Yeah.
I think about, I don't know, Ronaldo. How delusional has he got to be to think that he's going to get to the top?
Yeah, no, I see that. I mean, even in what we do, every day, we are self-belief or there is no belief.
Absolutely.
We've got to have something that we know that we can do it.
And I've really had to, from a personal development point of view, I've had to work on that because I haven't always had that. And I still, I sound like I know what I'm talking about and I've cracked the code. I haven't, just it's a constant personal development journey forever, isn't it?
So bring us forward. So at what age did you sort of fall out of, not out of love, but out of the day-to-day trawl of the golf? Where were you on age group?
Probably about 19, I'd say,
okay.
Because I started to see traction in Strings Direct.
Right.
I started to get a bit of money.
Yeah.
I thought, this is all right. And I think going back to what we were talking about, we were first to market where you were asking about how many guitar strings you're selling. We were first to market and we were the first. And I don't actually think anyone really can be bothered to do it because they probably look at it and go, my friends always used to say to me, you sell guitar strings on the internet and and that's your job. And I was like, yeah. And we were doing, well, now, we do 1.5 to 2 million a year. Basically just on guitar strings. I mean, they're consumables. People put them on, they use them for a week, a month or whatever, and they break. Absolutely. They buy them again. But we were first to market, and I remember this from the golf club, hearing someone talk about the internet. This is how far back we're going.
Yeah.
And I went to my dad and I said, Dad, we've got to get something called a website. And he was like, F off, basically, and I sort of talked him into it. He was like, how much is it? And I said, well, it's about 300 quid.
What does it do?
Yeah, what does it do? I went, I don't really know.
But we need it.
Yeah, we need it. And I've always been a bit like that, like a bit of a risk taker.
Yeah.
I always think just do it and, apologise later.
Yeah.
I thought it's 300 quid. What's the worst that can happen? And it really, really, obviously, really worked. We used to sit there. Do you remember the old modems?
Yeah.
Put them like,
make that funny noise.
And then wait for the emails to come up, send and receive.
In the box writing, wasn't it?
Like this. And all we had an order come through. I remember the first order. The guy's name was Trevor Sahitapi. I remember that. Yeah.
You remember that? It's tattooed on your brain.
I remember what he ordered and everything. Yeah.
And and in a guitar string, is there much profit in a guitar string?
It's as I said, it's all very brand based. Right. So I mean, I don't know if you know much about guitars. You heard of Fender, Gibson.
I've heard of Fender and Gibson.
So okay, you've got those sort of companies that are really the main ballers in that in that industry, and they really do control what you do. I mean, I could start. We've got our own brand of guitar strings, but everyone goes to the branded stuff. It's a hard sell. So you've got Fender and Gibson saying, okay, you need to get an account with us, you need to spend 10 grand a month.
Right.
And we go, okay. And if you don't sell that 10 grand, right, the next month, another 10 grand's coming. Right. So it's really, cash flow wise, it can be tough. A tough sell, which is why, to be honest with you, rather than push Strings Direct, we started Despatch Bros. Right. And Despatch Bros is, like I say, a kind of pure profit.
And Paul, do they, with the guitar string manufacturers and stuff, do they not have their own online as well now?
They do, but they sell full retail.
Right, okay.
Whereas the realistic price is they have like a full retail price and then they'll have like a street price. Right, and everyone sells them for the street price.
Okay.
So really, most people don't go to them.
And you were first to market. Yeah. And are you still top of the market for them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Guitar strings.
You kept that position. Yeah. Because sometimes you hear, don't you, the story that people are first to market, but then they didn't embrace the technology, or they didn't carry on with the marketing or whatever, and someone leapfrogs.
Yeah. I mean, I think that certainly we've been proactive.
Yeah.
Sometimes not as much as we should be. Like I say, it's passion wise, probably not my Strings Direct isn't my passion, although I've loved it and it's given me a great platform.
And his dad still involved in it?
Dad's still involved in it. I mean, he's retired, but he's still involved, and we still, Does
he still come in and make decisions with you? And
not so much. We bend his ear.
Yeah.
It's it's a bit of a weird one, I suppose. We bend his ear, and if he doesn't like it, then we might have a think about it, But
and then do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, he's always good to have, and I think it's always good to have a different perspective sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the one thing that I always push to my audience is to always try and get, whether it's a family member or not, but try and get a third eye in the room, because someone will always see something different in them woods. Sometimes you're so deep in what you're into, you can't see where the problem is or where something's missing.
Absolutely, yeah. When you're I've probably spent too many years being an operator in the business as well. Jumping in when someone was ill, or we got busier and not hiring someone and just kept going. And the last probably five years, me and my brother have started to sort of come out of that, and that's when Despatch Bros started taking off. And you
allow the entrepreneur to come up to the surface again and actually do their thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, entrepreneur. Do you like the word entrepreneur?
I looked it up. And it does actually describe me. So I if someone asks me, I say, yeah, you've got the right handle, and this is the entrepreneur's conversation. I do use it. I think it pulls your attention to someone who is prepared to take risk and to see things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And as a dyslexic, with your autism and whatever, we do see stuff from a wonked angle.
Yeah.
And I think it's a generic way of describing someone with isms in front of you. Because if you want to be an entrepreneur, good luck.
Yeah.
Because you need a hell of a lot of attention, scars, and effort and sweat, and it just isn't for everybody.
No
one would do what we do. No. All those hours and crap stuff that you have to do to make yourself succeed, and it's only because you're frightened that someone's going to call you something that you're not, and you're pretending to be something that you're not really.
It's a lot of masking that goes on. I think
a lot of masking.
Yeah, I think I always say maybe even worse numbers than this, but I say being in business or an entrepreneur, it's 90% pain and 10% glory.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready to go through the pain, which a lot of people aren't, and it takes. I mean, there's been times where I've screamed into a pillow a couple of times at home or whatever. You know, it's not easy.
I think I was asked a question on a panel the other day, wherever I was, and they were talking about stress. And, I said, I don't really stress at all now. And the guy was saying, you must stress. I said, no, I've groomed myself over all the years action is the dilution of stress. And you just take action. And when things start feeling a bit prickly and whatever, you go, right, stop, hold on. Yeah. Let's see, where is the pain, and how do I dilute that pain with action? And that is it.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I think it was Jeff Bezos I heard, and he said, anxiety is the product of not taking action.
Of not taking action, yeah.
And when I think about putting that into myself, my experiences, I'm always anxious about what's to come, or what might happen, or what a problem is. But if you actually just do something about it, even if that problem manifests itself, normally you're just like, whatever, you get on with it.
I did a post, Paul, the other week, and we were talking about looking on a regular basis at your business and where you are in a three-pronged attack. And the three-pronged attack was to look at it from the past of where it's come from to this point, looking at where you are now and what you're doing now in the business and how the business is right now, but then also looking into the future. And my thing was to say that I kind of do that 3D viewing on everything. Yeah. We look at, say, we're going to, I don't know, a bad example, buy a truck. And I go, well, how's that going to help us now? And what have we been using in the past? And what will that truck look like in the future? Do we need it? And try and have that view of what we're doing. And sometimes for me, I do it automatically. It's exhausting to have to think like that on everything, as opposed to just going yes or no. Yeah. It's never as simple as that.
No, I think what you're describing is definitely a skill that comes with experience. A lot of the time, I think I do a lot of what I call free thinking, which is where on purpose I will literally, no phones, no nothing. There's a bench at the end of my road, and I'll sometimes say to my wife, I'm just going for a little bit of me time. And I'll just go to the bench, and people probably think I'm nuts because you just stare into space.
But that's fine. We're fine with that as well, aren't we? We like people to think
absolutely.
Nuts.
Do you know what? I actually think when you're normally on the right path when people think you're a bit mental. Because you say you do this business idea and they'll go, people are scared, aren't they? They don't want to make the jump. They'll go, what are you doing that for? Oh no, don't do that. And I think when people think you're a bit nuts, it's really good.
I think my little nephew was telling me that he needed these trainers, and because they've all got them at school, and if he had them, they'd think he was like a weirdo. And I took the opportunity to say, right, now listen, Alfie, weirdo's a really good handle. If you can get classed as a weirdo, that means you're not running with the gang, you're not running with the mainstream, becoming part of a clan and all the rest of it that's going to take your identity away from you. And I would much prefer to be that outcast weirdo that looks at everything from a wonky angle. You know, even when we employ staff, Paul, here, we're looking for people that don't agree with everything we say.
You don't want a yes man.
No, we're looking for people that have got weird ideas, you know, that sort of, you know, those high shoes on the catwalk weirdness, and then we can take that weird idea and then just tone it down to something that actually works. And they're coming up with creativity. I'm always looking for people to have creativity on quite normal solutions sometimes, but coming up with ideas that fit our brand or fit what the style of what we're doing. But they're to have an environment with the staff to come up with ideas is really good for us.
Who wants to be normal?
Yeah. No,
Who wants to be normal?
No, nobody really.
You know?
But they think you say that.
I know.
They think that they're misfits, and then that becomes something they're scared of.
But that's a comfort blanket that no one really needs.
No, that's right. And that's what happens with brands, that they try and make you feel that you belong in a brand, so that's okay. You know, both of us now, we used to, and I'm sure you did, we wore all the branded stuff. As you get more confident with yourself, you have less of that going on, you know, because you become your individual self.
Correct, yeah. I mean, my wife dresses me because I'd wear the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah. Doesn't bother me.
But I bet in the golf that was all branded.
It was all branded, yeah. I mean, even to the clubs and all that, you know, if you had...
Yeah, that's on sponsorship as well, I suppose. Yeah.
But, well, if you were when you were a cadet and you had the best clubs, you know, if you had rubbish clubs, then you're a bit of a loser, you know. Yeah. But yeah, definitely, it was, you know, golf is another thing that's very brand orientated.
And on to the fulfillment business, and how many, you know, that was back a few years ago. How many customers are you sourcing and doing their stuff for?
We're on to about 12 now,
right?
13. Spoke to a bloke this morning, probably going to get 13 now, which I'm really pleased with, because we do turn people down because we're vetting our, as I said earlier, our prices that is per order. So if you've got someone that's puts a load of stuff in your warehouse and not doing any orders, you're actually putting your business in their hands. Yeah. So we do have to vet people, and I've turned a few people down because they're...
Well, because you don't think the product's going to move?
Their attitude, possibly, right. Or they've got loads of stock and say that, you know, had one person that had loads of stock, going to take up a lot of the warehouse, and they're doing 10 orders a day.
And in your space that you've got, you said to me earlier, it's about 10,000 square feet. And where are you with how much you've got left, or feel you know?
Probably, I'd say about 40%.
Left to go?
No, not left.
No, so you're only taking up 40%.
Yeah, and I'm really conscious of doing, creative solutions to storage.
Right.
You know, I don't just go, there's a bit of space over there, let's just use that part.
Yeah.
If we can, you know, the space is money to us.
Yeah.
And obviously, once we get to a point, then we can always...
mezzanine, you've got a mezzanine.
Mezzanine, yeah. And I think a lot of our clients are local, and they like that. Right. So I think if we were to grow, we'd probably go to another area, right. Because I don't think, I mean, not to say that they wouldn't, but I think someone in Scotland maybe wouldn't send their stuff down to us, because it's so far away. Yeah. I think that people do really like that they can come in, talk to us.
I think that last mile that is really what you're fulfilling for some of this as well, is that you're dispatching those goods and then they're going out on data posts or whatever. And, you know, we have a big industrial park here, and some of the customers there, Paul, you know, they're selling vapes, or they're selling it, you know, it's an online shop, and they're doing their own fulfillment. But when I went to a good friend of mine, is Ian Liddell. And Ian has got Uniserve, a big company. And I went to a fulfillment place that he just developed down in Tilbury. Oh, mate,
in the docks.
Blow your brains away. I mean, it was like 30 stories high. Yeah. Little robots running around, picking things off skyscraper shelves. It was just unbelievable. And you just think the decks of how high had all this done. But the cost, the millions and millions that you'd put into doing this was from the long haul. Yeah. You know, and he was telling me about how one of their customers is Louis Vuitton, and that brand, what's his name? The guy owns all those brands. Bernard something or other owns all of those posh brands, right. Chanel and everything. Yeah. He was renting a shop, say, in Knightsbridge, and then a third of the shop at the back was like the stockroom. Yeah. Well, they've now stopped that. So it's all shop, it's all retail sale.
Yep.
So they've got their money on their rental, what they're paying for the shop, but they have deliveries in twice a week from his warehouse.
Yeah.
And they literally send the orders on an email. The robot goes out and picks them. The ladies put them all in, all secure and stuff, and then send out a small pallet, and that gets delivered.
Yeah.
And he's become their back office, their back warehouse. It was on steroids.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we're probably trying to do the opposite of,
right?
In a way, because, like I say, if you imagine someone who's built a business and it's kind of their baby,
Yeah.
and they give it to I don't want to say faceless, but like a massive, you walk into these warehouses and you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of just
Yeah.
do that, don't you?
Yeah.
And there's thousands of staff.
Yeah.
Who do I contact if something goes wrong? And we're sort of trying to buck that trend a little bit. And we might be, we're probably a little bit more expensive than those guys, but I believe we're worth it. And also on the back of it, we've grown an e-commerce brand ourselves.
Right.
So we have regular chats with our clients, try and get a monthly meeting in with them, because if they grow, we get paid more.
You'll get paid more.
So, and that's another thing
And with that small client base, are you talking about platforms for their sales and stuff? You're talking to each other about what AI is bringing to the table, and whether Meta ads are going to be better than Google ads and all this.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the
item,
the item, on the brand, on the person.
Yeah.
I always say Google is sort of like the supermarket.
Yeah.
You go on Google, you know what you want.
Yeah.
You type it in, you get it. Facebook is sort of like someone trying to sell you something in a pub.
Right.
I think Facebook is great for stuff that you don't know you want. So I always look at the comparison is, if you want a Hoover, you might type it in Google and buy a Hoover. But have you ever seen one of them AI sort of Hoovers that do it for you, that you might never have seen before? You see that on an advert on Meta.
Yeah.
You go, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I'll have that.
Yeah.
But you never type that in because you don't know what it is. You don't know what it is.
I think the platform, what I'm noticing is TikTok shops is exploding.
Yep.
I mean, that's huge. With my dyslexia, to fill out that whole credit card number in, because it won't do Apple Pay, I'm a buyer on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there doing the thumb flip like this, and look, everybody knows I'm into camping gear, aren't I? So little camping super light comes up, 26 for 95. I'm all excited like that, and it is literally click.
It is
click, double click on my Apple Pay, and I'm done. That's turning up. I haven't filled anything. It's all auto-filled for me on my Instagram account.
Absolutely.
It's done. And I think that barrier, that lesser barrier to all those clicks and flicks. And I'm my dyslexia, but I'll get halfway through and go, oh, do you know what?
Can't be bothered.
Can't be bothered.
Yeah.
And then I'll move on to something else.
You have to make it, with ecom, you have to make it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
I always say people are zombie shopping.
Yes.
They are. Yeah. They're shopping, they're shopping, they're looking after the kids, they're watching a film, they're making dinner. Some of them are shopping in their car.
Yeah.
Waiting
for the wife to come back from the shop or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or, some people are wait at a traffic light and they go, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And you have to make it as easy as possible. As soon as you start putting stumbling blocks in, it becomes a problem. And I mean, with technology these days, that you have got the Apple Pay thing, and it just becomes so easy. Shop Pay with Shopify. We get people phone up and they'll go, I've got this order from you. Yeah, I didn't order it. Okay. Is your name James Martin? Yeah. Is your email jamesmartin@gmail.com? Yeah. Is your address this? Is your IP address this? Yeah. I'm sorry, James. You've ordered it.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. You've just gone through the process and probably just... I don't know how you can do it, but
Could be drunk shopping,
could
it?
be. Do you know what? You'd be surprised at how many, especially with guitar strings. They go to a gig.
Yeah.
They break a string. They're a bit pissed.
And get the wrong stuff.
10 to 12. 10 to 12 is our twilight zone.
My God! And can you see that on the system?
Yeah.
You can. That's great.
Yeah.
And what do you want it to look like in the next, say, 3 to 5 years? What do you want to do?
Dispatch Bros is really where I'm going with it. I'd like to grow it. I mean, we know what we can handle.
Yeah.
We can probably, I mean, at the moment, I'd say not comfortably, but we're looking at about 1,000 orders an hour we could process,
Right.
which we're well off that. So if we got anywhere near that in the next 3 years, I'll be super happy.
And if you grew, would you grow? You were talking about other locations.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm heavily into commercial property. It's hard to find.
Yeah.
They're like rocking horse crap to find them. And it is, how would that fit the model if you then had to go and stump up another great big sort of commercial mortgage to set up, warehouse number 2?
Well, I mean, if it got to that point, we'd be doing
Big numbers.
numbers,
Yeah.
So I don't think the financially wouldn't be a problem. Maybe the stumbling block would be finding something suitable.
Yeah. Just on locations to people as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're behind. I don't know if you probably know where this. You obviously know where this is. We're behind Roller City.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So, and there is some stuff that comes up around there. So you never know.
Yeah.
But like I say,
it's a good estate.
It's a good estate.
Yeah,
it is a good estate. We're in those sort of like, I don't know if you know, it's similar to Roller City, those blue sort of modern sort of looking units. And I wouldn't be against buying one of those or getting another one of those. But like I say, to grow it, people do like the location to be near them. So if we're going to expand and go into other areas, I think that would be advantageous to do.
I think my sort of overview of what you're telling me is an area that is just going to grow and grow and grow. And I think people are pulling away from the Bezos and stuff like that. They are looking for a more wholesome approach to getting their products out as opposed to going on the gravy train.
Yeah.
And would I be right? Is that what
Absolutely,
you feel?
Yeah. We get people that have been to big fulfillment companies as well, not just Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got some terrible stories about Amazon that maybe for another time.
I've heard of some bully stories. There was a wine merchant that we had here that kicked them out in the end. They were just terrible.
Amazon? Yeah. I mean,
Amazon were actually in here with them and they kicked them out because they were just it was just a crazy situation. It cost them a fortune.
We had, just a real quick story, we were bringing in a guitar pedal. Right. And it's like a product that you put into your amp, and you play your guitar, you press it, and it changes the sound, right? And we were the only people bringing it into the UK, and we sent it into Amazon to do FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, which we were doing for a little bit, and we actually stopped doing that because our accountant come down. He said, "You've done 750 grand's worth of FBA." He goes, "You've made 700 quid."
Wow.
And that was just, at the time, I think I was probably a bit wet behind the ears. It's, again, 10 years ago probably. I just thought we're doing loads of numbers. This is great. And then when you actually burrow it down, it just wasn't working. Anyway, we sent this pedal into FBA, and they said, "Oh, sorry, we've lost them." So okay. They went, "Give us your invoice, and we'll reimburse you." So okay, here's the invoice. They give us the money back. Next day, that pedal that you could have only got from us was on Amazon, fulfilled by Amazon.
Wow.
They basically stole the product. Not stolen, but taken them off us and paid us for the privilege.
That's terrible.
Terrible, yeah. And that was and that coincided with that meeting with the pretty soon timeline with the accountant. I was just like, "No, we're done here."
Yeah. And I think people they see this online shopping as a quick fix and do what they've got to do, but there's more to it than that, isn't there?
Yeah, everyone. I shop on Amazon. Yeah. Everyone does. It's great for what it is,
but it's definitely not the cheapest anymore.
It's definitely not the cheapest, and I also think there's quite a lot of tut on there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So
I've been trialing because I'm just fiddling with it. Is Temu,
right?
So I've just done my little bundles of crap to come through, and some of it's all right, and a lot of it's shit.
It's very hit and miss.
Right. But it's for low cost, like a bundle of 27 quid's worth of stuff to come through. But I have been spiteful. They've spiked me on some of the delivery costs because you see it there and you think, "Oh, it's 27 quid." press the button. It goes
57.
It goes 69.
Yeah.
You go,
Still cheap though.
hang
isn't
on, what is that? Anyway, it comes up. But that's been like a little play we had with that, just to see what actually turned up. I think it's very interesting because the shopping aisle is dying on its feet, isn't it? I mean, we were at Lakeside the other day, and it's been in receivership now for the last 3 years, I think. And I looked at it. You can see where they've tried to disguise the shops with hoardings and stuff like that. Yeah. But 30% of that place was shut. There was no revenue coming through, and that foot traffic. And I visited Minnesota about 7 years ago, and they were selling off shopping malls, and they were turning them into grey villages.
Really?
And the grey villages were literally a care home on steroids to the grave.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. Oh no, it seriously was. And they had all the indoor walking and exercising, the bowling turns. The car park wasn't used because they didn't need all these cars anymore. So they were building new apartments in the car park. And it was just becoming these mega steroid grey villages where you just sell everything, give them the money, and you're there till you die. But with a community as well. It's not all doom and gloom, but it was just showing how they reinvented that space, because that space is definitely dying.
Dead, yeah.
What else is on your pod? Can we give a shout out to your pod?
Yes. It was originally, it is still a lead magnet, to be honest, while we started it. But it's become a labour of love. It's, I sort of like started to realise what I really, really like doing. I like doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
And it's really enjoyable. Yeah. But yeah, we started it as a bit of a lead magnet. Like I said, how do I get our personality across as the face of Despatch Bros on a digital level? And it is, podcasts and
people want to go and have a look to who they're going to trust with their stuff, don't they?
Yeah, we've had a couple of people come on board with Despatch Bros because we've invited them on the podcast. Yeah. They've turned up. We've had a chat with them. It's been really nice, and they've sort of like looked around and gone, "Oh, this is all right, isn't it?" Yeah. And come on board.
And we do, Paul. We do a similar thing here. We say for Baddow Park House, that is the wedding venue. We'll say, how do we promote it? How do we set ourselves aside from other people? And it is about having the pastoral care of looking after that bride and their wedding and their family. Well, the only way I can really get that across is digitally, with podcasts, with social media, with YouTube, where they can see the team, the camaraderie, the expertise, and everything else that goes with it. And I think that's obviously what you're alluding to with your podcast, that they can see that there is credibility behind just what you're saying you can do.
Yeah, it's dual marketing as well. When you think about it, we're doing this podcast, you're going to push it out, then I'm going to share it to my audience.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's dual marketing. And yeah, I've actually thought, maybe we struggle for guests, but it turns out people like to talk about themselves.
And they do like to come on, and they do like to have that exposure for what they're going to do. I think that, we look at what we're trying to get across to that customer. I'm 62. I've got plenty of friends who've got businesses. If they're not doing this innovation, if they're not embracing doing, stuff on social media and stuff like that, they will just evaporate into nowhere, because there's so many smart people that are coming on to the space, whether it's hotels, wedding venues, dispatch, whatever it might be, that are ready to do the sweat. And this whole thing, you said, what would you think about the word, this entrepreneur thing? I meet, and I do consultancy for quite a lot of small to medium sized businesses. Some of them, you listen, they're kind of doing it like it's a fad. I know what we do this week. We do entrepreneur. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And I have to be very careful how I view some customers that want some work done with them, because I see they need to go and do an apprenticeship somewhere to know if they really want to be out on their own, where everything stops with them. Because it's kind of like that, isn't it? The buck stops with you, and whether you've made the right decision or you've taken the right client in for you to be in the warehouse with you, it's all down to you at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I mean, even when you're employing people these days, it's kind of like you work for them, almost.
Yeah. And you tread on eggshells sometimes with how that works.
I mean, I try my best, not that we've ever really had any issues, but sort of going through HR and all that sort of stuff, I just think it's, I'm not going to swear, but it's absolute rubbish. They go, oh, you've got to say this and say this. Like, these people are human beings.
Yeah.
Can we just sit down and have a conversation with them?
Yeah.
My dad used to work in the city, and he's always used to say to me, this world's gone mad. We just used to go, the guy used to come in, sit him down, you're out,
You're fired.
Yeah, it's literally Alan Sugar style.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I want to do that these days, but it just feels like, there's red tape everywhere, and it discredits everyone's feelings in general, to be honest.
And how are you feeling about the Labour government? It's a topic, isn't it?
Next question.
Yeah, next question.
I mean, honestly,
we're calling her Rachel Phoebes.
I just try not to. I know it's terrible. I just try not to pay too much attention to it and just stay in my lane and get on with it.
We can't do a lot about it, can we?
No.
No. So I think that our responsibility is to be fit enough to be able to just ride whatever's coming at us. It might be a Brexit, an interest rate, a Rachel Phoebes, whatever it might be. We've just got to get through it and be your own bubble. And like you say, just be ready to be able to just go through it. Because you can't change anything.
No,
Our vote won't count, will it?
No. I think as an entrepreneur, a good entrepreneur is someone who can roll with the punches and be a bit of a chameleon.
Yeah.
Something happens.
Yeah.
You're moving around. I kind of little thing that I always say to everyone. I love the game because it takes me back to when I used to play video games.
Right.
And I think having a business or being an entrepreneur is sort of like real life video game. You play the first level and you get to the end and you beat the boss, and then you go to the next level and the next level and the next level, and it's like a video game where there's no end.
There's no end, no.
And the end is basically when you want it to end, whether you want to exit the business or retire or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. What's it like with your brother?
Brilliant.
Brotherly love?
Yeah. I mean, we intertwine so well.
Right.
He is pragmatic. I call myself, actually, I shouldn't really call myself this, but I'm an idea machine, and I'll just be coming up with ideas. So, and when I've got an idea, and they must just go, for God's sake.
Idea number 409.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Yeah, absolutely. I come up with 100 ideas, 99 absolute crap, and one. But that's the numbers game, And he's very pragmatic. He does the warehouse and all that sort of stuff. So we really, really work well together. Yeah. And we never really, I don't think we've ever had an argument. I actually don't like confrontation, to be honest with you.
And you alluded there to what we do in that video game. Do you see an exit? How would that ever work with all you? Because you've got your dad and you two in it.
A lot of people always say, like, have exit in mind. And rightly or wrongly, I just don't think about it. I really like it, and if it pays me till the day I die, money for essentially not doing nothing, but if it's putting money in my pocket till the day I die, and I could pass that down to my daughter, then that's good enough for me. I'm not too bothered. It doesn't cross my mind about selling it or growing it to X amount and then selling it. I mean, maybe that might be a different story in 5-10 years. I don't know. I'm 44 now, so I mean, you tell me. Yeah, you tell me.
Well, I mean, Paul, why am I still building businesses and buying property at 62 years old? It's really because I love doing what I do. So you've answered the question back to me. I mean, I just love what I do. I love building teams. I love working with my staff and building, very tight communities of cultured people that really get on.
Culture is such a big thing, I think. If you've got one bad egg, even if they're good at their job, they've got to go.
Hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah, and I don't actually stick to those rules because I don't actually like everything probably an entrepreneur shouldn't be. Yeah. I don't like confrontation, and I don't work well under pressure. Yeah. So. And that is, I think,
they're autistic traits.
They're autistic traits, and I have to work around that.
You've got to work around that, and that's why we both have created environments that we can work in, and that's why we can't really work for other people. Is because we have to make the rules ourselves that we do it the way we want to do it at the pace we want to do it, be it a fast pace or a slow pace. But we have to be in control, otherwise our kind of head explodes off our shoulders, and we obviously don't want that to happen. But I think that's very true. And that's why you find there's so many neurodiverse people in business
Yeah.
because it's the only safe place they can go.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you go for an interview or a few interviews, you can't get a job, and you think, I've got to think outside the box here. I've got to do something that I'm in control of. So I do think that, like I say, I don't really like all those sort of don't like confrontation, and I think it's actually sort of strangely enough worked out well for me, because sometimes, okay, let's say I've hired someone and they're not really doing their job, but I've seen something in them that I liked in the first place. I always look inward and think, am I not giving them the right direction? Do they not see the vision or whatever? Or do they just need a little bit more training? And more often than not, I mean, it's there's hardly been any time where I've had to sort of basically, kick someone out.
But I think a lot of it comes down to that it is our responsibility. The responsibility stops with us. If we've got someone that's backed the truck into a tree, okay, what was it? Was there not enough sensors on it? Have you not trained the guy to drive the truck well enough? Is he just an idiot? We have to take all of that into account to see what it was. But I think that as self-made people, you end up that the buck stops firmly with you, and not everybody wants to take that on.
No,
and that becomes a point of it. Is there any other diverse things that you're going to be doing? Are you going into any other markets or doing other projects?
I'm quite wary of doing too many things, because I think it's that sort of entrepreneur-itis that
shiny things,
absolutely. You're trying to concentrate, especially when you're neurodivergent. You're trying to concentrate, and then you go, "Oh, what's that over there?" And then it sort of knocks you off your axis of what you're actually doing. And it's happened to me before. You start doing something else, you think, I should have done that. I'll stick doing this. So I've got some ideas that I will push on with when the time is right, but nothing that's
and you don't want to tell us about them now?
It's nothing. I mean, with the dispatch side of things, what we've done, we've created an ecosystem that, normally when you want to start a business, you think of the product and you think, right, how do I start selling it? Whereas we can develop a product, we can do something, and then we could just plug it into our system. We've got literally every part of the puzzle. We've got the Google AdWords guys, we've got content guys, we've got Meta guys, we've got the systems to sell it. We've got guys that will do the Shopify site. It's paint by numbers. And all you really need.
Where will you find those products?
I think it's mainly, for me, going forward, I wouldn't be a reseller anymore. I think it's a real tough, you're controlled by someone else. I'd probably, if I was going to do something along the lines of self-publishing,
right?
Maybe create some sort of journal. I even thought about doing it for, autistic community. I don't know about you, but I've literally got to write down lists upon lists upon lists upon lists just to crazy stuff, like even shave. Right, because you'll go through the whole day and go look in the mirror at the night and go, oh no,
I write the lists, and then I can't read my lists. So now I voice them into my notes. At least I know that I've got them then.
So, I mean, I'm not taking the mickey or anything like that. So, do you struggle to read in general, or is it?
I don't read or write at all.
Right. Okay.
So everything my iPhone is my best friend because it reads everything to me, reads all the emails. But it's a bit clunky because I still have to go and scroll over, read page, and I only really want that bit, but I have to listen to all of it to get the bit that I really want out of it. Where if I could read, I could just skip read through to the bit that I wanted.
I'm a poor reader, so I'm quite a slow reader, and I read in a fashion. I probably have to read something 2 or 3 times for it.
You really just want to get people to just write slower. It would be easier.
It would be, read.
Very good.
That was it.
Was that a dig?
No, that was my one joke that I've got into the podcast, was my slow writing.
But no, I'll have my wife will go, oh, look at this meme or something.
Yeah.
And she goes, it's so funny. And she'll go like that. And I'll go, and something that I should read in 10 seconds. A minute later, she's going, have you, and I haven't laughed.
No,
have you read it yet? Right. And I'm going, it's coming. But I've sort of turned out on its head really. So I do read, but I will normally read a chapter of a book, and then close it. And I'll do that free thinking thing where I'll just sort of like absorb what I've read.
Yeah.
Because if I just nail through 10 chapters, it doesn't go in.
No. And I will commonly listen to an audio book 4 to 6 times.
Yeah.
The digestion of it, they say it's about 10%, but I'll do it. And or even put it down for a month and go back to it again, and you just find new stuff when you go that time.
Absolutely.
To do it.
It's like watching a film, isn't it? Like you watch your favourite film and then you go, I didn't get that bit.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's why she died. But I think the reading thing is, this is what I've done before now. I've said to a member of staff, would you mind just giving me a hand? They go, yeah, fine. I said, could you just read that? And they go, oh, God, yeah. And I went, no, read it to me. You're just reading it to yourself.
That was a better joke.
Yes.
That was a better joke.
Cut the other one out. Put that one in, Ollie. Is that right? What are we going to do? We're going to do books, features, questions. What have you got for us, Ollie?
Should we do what are we dyslexically reading?
Yeah, what are we dyslexically reading? It's a great. What are you reading? Are you reading anything at the moment?
Yeah, I'm actually going back to the thing about creating products, not just creating products. It's the Despatch Bros thing has sort of given us a platform to potentially buy businesses and bolt them in.
Right.
So I got gifted a book called Main Street Millionaire by Cody Sanchez.
Cody, lovely.
Yeah. I started to read it, and I her content I was never been too bothered about, and the book really,
it's a great book, isn't it?
Really sort of like simplifies.
Yes.
And you think, when you hear people talk about no money down deals, and you think that's a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
But
she makes it quite baby steps to go through it, doesn't she?
And she actually says at the start, I'm going to tell you how to buy a business for no money down and get the vendor to be thanking you. Yeah. And she puts it down, all these steps, and you think, she's absolutely right. Yeah. So I'm reading that at the moment, but I'm about 3/4 of the way through that. I'd say.
It's a great book.
It's a really great book. Yeah. Most of the other books I've read, like I say, I'm a slow reader, so it's not.
And would you not audio listen?
It doesn't go in.
No?
No.
Your digestion isn't from the
audio? No, it's definitely not. Sometimes I'll even fall asleep. Yeah. Sometimes, if you go on holiday or whatever, listening to something.
Apparently it does go in even when you're asleep,
really?
Apparently.
Okay. I'm not sure.
I've been reading. I've been reading a couple of different books, but what I've been listening to, obviously, in the last couple of days is Business Wars.
Right.
And Business Wars it's a take on, they've got the Acquired guys that do all about the business, and then they've got they're like full on productions, this Business Wars. They've got music and it's all going on. But Business Wars was about Patek Philippe, and Patek Philippe were one of the high end watchmakers. And I just listened to the Rolex one that was done with Acquired, and it was just a completely freaky world, all these watchmakers and how much money they make, and the buyers of the watches, the auctions, and how they got the auctions to pump up the second-hand value that made the retail value become so desirable that they had sort of people were putting money down sort of 3 years in advance of a watch.
The Rolex effect sort of thing.
Oh yeah, the Rolex effect. It was unbelievable. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I think one of the main book that sort of, I don't want to say changed my life or anything, but was the book by David Schwartz called The Magic of Thinking Big.
Yes, I've read that. Yeah, very good book.
And I read that
a long time ago.
Yeah, I read it a long time ago. It's a fancy way of taking action.
Yeah,
That's
right, yeah.
And I think, especially from going from e-commerce to B2B, which I am now with the Dispatch, it's certainly helped me, because I've realised with the e-commerce, we were sort of, because our consumer is the man in the street, we were thinking about how we can grow the business, and we were just sitting in four walls and sort of brainstorming. Whereas I think I've realised that business is people, and people are opportunity.
Yeah.
And doing Despatch Bros, you realise that. Well, actually, a friend of mine, you might even know, do you know a guy called Neil Sweeney?
Yeah, I know Neil. Yeah.
So I went to school with Neil.
Yeah.
And I was going to say good friends. I haven't seen him for a while. He did my podcast.
He doesn't look any different.
No, he doesn't look any different. But he often voice notes me. He doesn't voice note. He's the only person that I know he does a video.
He always does videos.
And I love that because I said to him the other day, you've inspired me because...
And you can't open the blooming thing, you have to press the button.
Yeah, and he's always walking with his dog and he has a chat with you. But it's basically, he's networking without... normally people go, yeah, thanks, mate. And on text, it's so impersonal. Yeah. And I said to him, you've inspired me and I've started doing it. But he said, I said I was coming on this and then he's just sort of going on a sort of rant about business.
Well, he wasn't doing the love to me, was he? When you said you were coming on, he was saying how a lovely guy I was.
Oh, yeah, he was saying that. Of course, yeah. Don't worry about that.
I sent him the money, he's done.
He said he was just talking about something and he said... because he's a business coach himself.
Yeah, that's right. He is. Yeah.
He said, I posted something about this on LinkedIn. He said kimio, which is the Greek word for keep moving.
Right.
He said, you've just got to keep moving because, go to that podcast, go to the event, talk to someone, reach out to someone. Always keep just nattering away, doing little things. And these little things that you think don't matter could turn into a big thing.
Big relationship.
You keep moving, you do something, and on the edge of movement is opportunity.
Yeah.
And that really, really, even just him saying that.
What was the word again?
Kimio.
Kimio.
I might have pronounced it wrong. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's kimio. Yeah. It's a Greek word for keep moving.
Okay. If we've said that wrong,
Neil.
You'll definitely message us. We know you will. If people want to find you and use your services for your dad's, the strings and everything else, give us the shout out.
So
how do they find you?
stringsdirect.co.uk.
Okay.
That's literally it. The Despatch Bros is mainly Instagram these days. Despatch.bros.
Okay.
And yeah.
And what about if they've got some super product that they'd like you to look after in your warehouse and dispatch from it? They would come to you on that.
Yeah,
Despatch Bros.
Despatch Bros Instagram or the website despatchbros.co.uk.
And for your podcast?
Again, you could go to the Despatch Bros.
Yeah.
Or a lot of the podcast and the content is on the Despatch Bros Instagram.
All right.
If anyone wants to come on, we'll...
Listen, I appreciate your time today to come in.
Thank you.
And I'll try and reverse you back and come on to yours. And
we've booked it in. Yeah. I like the way you put it. It was the away leg.
The away leg. Is that what it is? That's very good. Yeah, well done. See, behind technology is personality sometimes, and it does live in Oliver. It's great. Okay, if you've enjoyed the podcast and you want to hear more chats to entrepreneurs and people that are in the coalface doing the stuff and making it happen, come back to us on the Entrepreneurs Conversation with me, James Martin. Thank you. If you've enjoyed the episode, make sure you hit those buttons and bells and make sure you do the subscribe and give us a comment. Let us know what you think of the pods and how we're getting on and how we're delivering the message of entrepreneurs, the Entrepreneurs Conversation. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you on the next one.